Hey everybody. Well, I guess time for a little story. Today I'm going to tell a story from my past. It'll be about the ice falling on my head that caused the brain injury that has caused my life to be so horrible. When I was about 8 years old, my family moved into a new house. In that first winter in that house, there was an eaves trough that let out all the melting water onto some lattice and a climbing vine that had been growing all over the lattice. In being 8 years old and quite active, I was very active before this happened, and I was very happy and fun, and I did lots of stuff. And I decided that I was going to chop at this ice that was about 8 or 10 feet above the ground, so maybe 4 feet above my head. And I decided I was going to chop at it with a homemade sword that I made. And I started chopping away. My sister, who was 13, she had just finished her babysitting course. She started babysitting me while my parents were away at janitor. They did janitor work at 2 different banks at night. So my sister was babysitting me. She was inside the house, and I'm chopping away at this ice. And I'm looking up at it, and I take one more chop, and I see that the ice is falling down at me. So I quickly put my head down to protect my face, and this huge chunk of ice, probably about a meter long and about that big around, fell directly on my head right there. And there's even a little dent that you can feel from it. It's a dent in my skin. And I immediately put my hand on my head, and it didn't knock me out, so that's the first surprising thing. And I walked in and I asked my sister if I had any blood on my head. And I was wearing one of those skin tight gloves. They were my sister's gloves actually, and they were white. And the glove was just dripping with blood when I took it away. My sister checked it out, and it wasn't bleeding anymore. It stopped bleeding somehow from walking into the house. But she was worried that I had a concussion. And we waited for about an hour until my parents got home. She made sure that my eyes looked right and that I wasn't feeling sleepy or anything. I kept on reassuring her I felt fine. My parents got home, and first thing my dad said is, "Did you cry?" That was their measuring stick to see if I needed to see a doctor or not, as if I cried, or if something actually happened or not. He asked, "Did you cry?" And I was 8 years old, and of course when I wouldn't cry, my dad would be proud of me. So I wanted my dad to be proud of me finally, because he's very rarely was he proud at me or proud of me. So I said, "No, didn't cry." And then he said, "Well, you don't need to go see the doctor then." Didn't go see a doctor. Never saw one about it. Even though after that moment, I changed. I was no longer the same person that I was. Before that, I was happy, I was active, I was always doing something, I always wanted to be doing something. After that, I wasn't interested in anything. I couldn't get interested in anything. All I wanted to do was sit around and watch TV and do nothing. And I started eating lots, I started being depressed. The first time I tried to kill myself was when I was about 10 years old. Because of the way I felt. And I didn't know what suicide was back then, but I thought about wanting my life to die, or wanting my life to end all the time. Nothing seemed okay with me, everything seemed wrong. I didn't seem to be able to make any of the right decisions, do any of the right things. Everything I did was wrong, and I'd get in trouble, And everything that I would try to do would end up failing, and then my parents would tell me that they knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything, and blah, blah, blah. So my whole life, all growing up, couldn't do anything right. Anything right that I did do, my parents questioned whether I did it or how I did it or whatever. Like, I had problems saving money. And when I was about 15 years old, I saved up the money to buy a set of golf clubs. Do you know what my dad said when I asked him to drive me to the Canadian Tire to buy a set of golf clubs? Where'd you get the money for that? Yeah. That's what he said. No faith whatsoever. And that was my whole life. When I went to buy my first car, he asked me where I got the money for that, and I said I saved up. I've been working since I was 14, so of course I saved up. But he had no faith in me, and that hurt. So until 6 days before my 42nd birthday, that's how I felt. December 31st, 2021 was my first dose of LSD. And since then, how many days has it been? 70, something like 72 days. It's been that I haven't even considered suicide. For going 34 years, every single day, wanting your life to end, in many of those days, having to fight with yourself to not end it yourself. And then I went 72 days without thinking about it. It's been pretty amazing. I still have like some sad moments and stuff. My life is still pretty shitty. I'll probably show you more of it later on. My home is a disaster because neither me or my wife can bring ourselves to do anything about it. We're both suffering in a huge depression. We're suffering even more because of what has gone on in Canada lately. What our government has done to us. We're suffering health effects from what our government has done to us, both physical and mental. And that's what the worst thing right now. I stopped my suicidality, and then this happened. And that's kind of a blow. Like, it's hard to take. Because I don't know if anybody out there has a similar situation that they've spent so long fighting. But when you spend that long fighting and you finally make something happen, you finally fix something, and then the world goes to shit, it's pretty devastating. And how Justin Trudeau isn't even being held accountable for what he did. He shouldn't be there. Okay, I gotta stop talking about politics. So yeah, that's my first story about when the ice hit me. The pivotal moment that changed my entire life. Other than the pivotal moment of taking acid for the first time. There's been many moments that have directed my life, and I will talk about a lot of those. I think next time I'm going to talk about my first suicide attempt, or the first time I should have died. because I've had quite a few times in my life that I literally should have died, and I didn't, and the doctors can't explain why. And it has caused a fear. My biggest fear is that I won't be able to die. So I guess that's about it for today's story. I think I'm going to just get through a lot of these stories first before reading out of this book. I'm also afraid to read in front of the camera because I'm not a very good out loud reader. What the hell. I'll read a couple pages here. So starting with the preface. The book that I'm reading from is Indigo Adults, and it is written by Kabir, Jaffe, and Ritama, Davidson. And I don't have permission to read from this. I don't know if reading from a book is against copyright laws or anything, but I'm pretty sure with the content of the book and what this book is trying to, the message that this book is trying to put forward, I really don't think that the authors are going to mind me reading and trying to help other people go through what this book helps people go through. It's about awakening. We'll start with the preface. A new type of person is coming into incarnation right now. Almost a next step as humanity progresses. These people hold great hope for the future, with the promise of a new humanity and civilization. They carry different energies, paradigms, and ways of thinking and feeling. These new people are called indigo souls. Because clairvoyants notice that the color in indigo is usually prominent in their aura. Indigo is the color of their third eye. These souls have a high degree of activity in their third eye. Though we could easily have referred to these souls as a new soul, Aquarian soul, or other such names that are currently being used, we felt that indigo addressed the fundamentally differences in their energies and psychological makeup. In our work leading seminars on self-development around the world, we come across thousands of indigo souls. Most of them are already adults, but very few know they are indigo or understand their soul nature. Many are struggling because they are different. They frequently feel alone, separate, or misunderstood. They have a depth of feeling and thinking that differs from those around them. They have powerful internal forces of energy, intelligence, and feelings that they often don't understand, and consequently find difficult to manage. They are usually sensitive, making them more easily disturbed by things that don't bother others. They carry aspirations and visions that make them long for something more. They be dissatisfied with the world as it is, very much dissatisfied. They often feel limited and frustrated by what is considered the normal world, or the new normal. If this description speaks to you, then you are probably an indigo soul. This book contains the understandings and discoveries we have made as we wrestled with our nature as indigo adults, as well as through our work with others. We hope these materials will be as valuable to you as they have been to us, and will help you understand more clearly who you are, what you carry within you, and your purpose as an indigo soul here on Earth. The material for this book was developed by both of us, the authors, and was then given as a series of 8 evening lectures by Kabir in Frankfurt, Germany, over the spring and summer of 2003. The format was a lecture followed by questions and answers. Chapter 1 is a later edition and does not contain questions in this edition for 2009, both by request from the publisher and to address the many questions coming to us from indigos about relationships. We have added a new chapter, chapter 8, from a talk given by us both entitled Indigos in Love. The book starts with a short section on astrology. We realize that many readers may not be interested in our knowledge about astrology, and that some may be actively resistant to it. Bear with us for just a short while. We think it will be worth it. Our experience is that astrology brings an important key to understanding the indigo phenomenon. This book is rooted in our personal experience of the subtle dimension of life, and also reflects our explorations into the esoteric and mystic techniques of many traditions. This dimension is not so tangible to our normal analytic mind, nor has it been documented by scientific proof. Take what you are presenting as a hypothesis, or take what we are presenting as a hypothesis. Experiment with it and come to your own conclusion. So next time we'll read from chapter 1, What Are Indigo Souls? So anyway, so that's the book that has helped me through a lot of what I'm going through. It has explained a lot of what I feel. What I feel coupled with the brain damage that I had and the misfiring neurons that I had has been what has caused my life to be so horrible, and for me to not be able to see any of the good. Like, I would literally, every day I would come to a resolution about something, and moments later I would lose that resolution. I would not be able to continue to see the good in the world because my brain would just misfire. So both that book and the LSD has changed my life, and I hope that with this channel I can help other people. If you haven't already, I would appreciate you liking and subscribing and hitting that bell for notifications. I'm a new channel, and I'd like to help as many people as possible, because as we'll learn with this book, as an indigo, I want to change as much as possible. And I don't have any friends. I don't even have any family anymore. The only person I have is my wife. And I want to help form the future. I want to make a change, even if it's just a few people. But I would like as many people to be helped by these videos and to follow along with me as possible. So, hopefully I'll see a bunch of people in the future.